OK, Mario, si tu veux commencer, c'est beau.
Okay, very good. Alors, bonjour tout le monde. Good day, everyone. We are live from La Belle Province of Quebec with a beautiful and humid day of 29 degrees, gold trading around 1881. My name is Mario Jolet. I am the president of MI3 Financial Communication. And on behalf of the MI3 team and our associated sponsors, tu veux changer de...
Ouais.
Canadian Institute of Mining and Metallurgy, Section Amos, Investor Intel, MRAG with Cloud Financial Service, and BTV. We welcome you to this video conference, Let's Talk Mining. The title of the conference today, Canadian Miners Gold Digging in Australia, for the French audience, Les chercheurs d'or canadiens en Australie. And to understand the booming in Australia, please, let's welcome our three presenters. First, we will have Ms. Tamara Brown, Interim CEO of Superior Gold. Bonjour, Tamara, and welcome.
Bonjour, Maria.
Thank you for being with us. Also with Tamara, we have Ms. Kate Stark, who's in charge of the Investor Relations Department. Bonjour, Kate. And thank you for being with us. Secondly, we will have Mr. Phil Thomas, directly from Australia. Bonjour, Phil.
Hi.
Thanks for being on the show. With Phil, we have Mr. Dennis Walsh, who was previously with Kirkland Lake Gold. Bonjour, Mr. Walsh. I know you're on the call. Thank you for being with us, and also Mr. Martin Elliman. And thirdly, we will have Ms. Chris Donaldson, President of Outback Goldfields. Bonjour, Chris.
Hi, Mario. Thanks for having us.
Thank you for being with us. Also with Chris, we have Mr. Neil McRae, who's in charge of the Investor Relations Department.
Morning.
Thank you for being with us. Also would like to introduce our moderator for today, Mr. Terry Orsland, 4 years of experience, mining engineer, President TSO and Associate, Metal Outlook session opening speaker at PDAC, MRAG Chairman. Terry, merci. Thank you for being with us today.
Good morning, good afternoon, everybody.
Thank you. Also, we have Mr. Eric Lemieux, 30 years of experience, professional geologist, former mining analyst. Thank you, Eric, for being with us today.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Thank you. So, for the people, the attendees, if you have any question while the presenters are presenting, please feel free to answer, put it in the chat, and we will have a representative of each company to answer directly to you. As we are getting ready to start, we will mute all the participants for a clear audio. So thank you very much for your time on this beautiful day, and hope you enjoy the presentation. Merci. And on this, we will give the mic to Ms. Tamara Brown, Interim CEO of Superior Gold. Thank you very much. Merci.
Thanks, Mario. I think I can share my screen successfully here with you all.
Yeah.
Thanks very much, everyone, for joining us today. So for those that are new to Superior Gold, we're a TSXV listed entity, but we own 100% of the Plutonic gold operations in Western Australia. And so some people know the story, some people don't. There's a lot of opportunity, I'd say, for this story to be told a lot further. So thanks, Mario, for having us here today. Just a note, second slide, forward-looking statements and the fact that all of our amounts are in US dollars unless otherwise indicated. So this is a picture of the Plutonic gold operations. They are located in the heart of Western Australia. You can tell from my accent, I am West Australian originally, and so pretty passionate about this mine and the opportunity that we have here. So this mine, to give you an idea, it's a large gold deposit. It's been in continuous production since 1990 and has produced in and around 6 million ounces of gold. So it's a big system with a lot of infrastructure on surface. Taking a look at our investment highlights, we always tout the fact that, number one, we are operating in one of the top mining jurisdictions in the world, being Western Australia. The Fraser Institute regularly have it top 1 or 2 in the world. We own and operate a world-class operating gold mine with significant established infrastructure. We've got a clear optimization and expansion plan, which I'll go through today to give you some more information on. And we have a large resource base. So we've got about 5 million ounces of MI&I altogether. So it's a big system, and we do think it's got a lot of life ahead of it. And there's a compelling re-rate opportunity here. We are quite lowly valued compared to our peer producers. So for those that are not familiar with the Western Australian Gold Camp, you've got Kalgoorlie, Coolgardie down here at the bottom of the Yilgarn. We're right at the top in the north end. It's a large greenstone belt, and Plutonic is on the edge of the Plutonic Marymia Gold Belt. A lot of these deposits were discovered in the 90s and all still in continuous production. I'd call it a big five of one of the WA's largest producing gold mines. Taking a little bit of a closer look, we own 100% of the underground, operating underground mine, plus 2 open pit projects to the southwest of us, the Hermes open pit and Hermes South open pit projects. Taking a look at our infrastructure, a lot of infrastructure here, and that's what you're buying when you buy Superior Gold stock. You've got not only the gold deposit below it, but all of the infrastructure on the surface. And we as a management team now need to better leverage that infrastructure. So to give you an idea, we have gas-fired power. We have 2 mills, a 1.8 million tonne per annum mill, a 1.2 million tonne per annum mill. The second mill currently on care and maintenance. We have permitted tailings facilities. There's 3 paddocks here and another 2 off to the north. We have a fly-in, fly-out camp and about 450 kilometres of underground development. So significant infrastructure that we're looking to leverage here. Replacement value for all of these assets is probably in and around $2.5 billion. Obviously, we need to leverage that investment that's gone before us. I talked about our strategy. It's very simple. There's a 4-pillar piece to this. First, we have the underground mine. It's operating in and around 70,000 ounces of gold a year. There's an opportunity to increase that just by focusing on grade, expanding into new mining fronts, and really bringing in best practice mining here to the operation. The second leg of the strategy are open pits. So we have quite a number of open pit deposits here, but for the last several years, no one has been focused on it because Plutonic previous to us was owned by Northern Star, and they're an underground miner and very focused on underground mining. So there's an opportunity here, and we're very excited to be bringing on open pit production in mid-year this year. So then the next part of the strategy is bringing online that second mill. There is a lot of opportunity here to process additional mineralization, both on our property and also along the Plutonic Marymia Gold Belt. So there are a lot of deposits up here that have resources on them, but don't have access to a mill. And so we're looking to get that second mill back in operation and increase our production level up another step. And then we've got the 4th pillar, which is the new discovery. Obviously very exciting. We've made a lot of progress here with respect to our geological model, and we're having some excellent success with the exploration coming out of it. I'm not going to belabor some of the history too much, but last year was an important year for us. We did a number of things. We were able to eliminate a 2% NSR royalty on the property. We repaid the large portion of our debt. That will be fully paid off in June this year, which I think will be a catalyst for the stock, because then you'll see all of the money going straight to the bottom line. We completed a PEA on a pushback of the main pit. That was a new project that the investment community didn't see previously. And we came out with some great exploration results. Safety is number 1 here. Happy to say, operating in Western Australia, we're effectively unimpacted by COVID. It's really kind of an island within an island where you have very tight border control, COVID, no incidents of COVID of our operation. But we do have a disease management plan in place. Taking a look at 2021 production, we're looking in and around 70,000 ounces of gold. As I said before, we do see this stepping up as we move forward and bring online the additional projects here at Plutonic. When I came in, which was about mid-year last year, we had a lot of opportunity to better optimize that underground operation, and we've been able to do that. We've been focusing on the stope grade that we mine at. We were able to invest in 2 new trucks and 2 new loaders, which improved our availabilities here. And most importantly, we put on site a 3rd drill rig completely dedicated to exploration. And that's been a game changer for us because it's showing there's a lot of extension to this mineralization. Operationally, you can see that steady quarter-over-quarter improvement we've seen in our production level. Obviously, with a lot of our costs being fixed here at site with a fly-in, fly-out operation, that significantly reduces our all-in sustaining cost per ounce figure. And in Q1, which we just came out with, a nice step up in production. Taking a look at those open pits. So that was the underground pillar, very important. We see growth opportunity out of the underground with respect to just getting our grades up and new mining fronts opened. With respect to the open pits, there are about 4 or 5 open pit projects here to talk about. We have Plutonic East, which is simply a pushback of a past producing pit close to the mill. We're going to put that in production mid-year this year. Then we have Perch, which is close by to it, Salmon, and then the Hermes and Hermes South projects. And beyond them, we have the big one, which is the Plutonic main pit pushback. So this is simply a pushback of an old producing pit, and it will give us a base supply of ore for that big mill that we operate. So that project we came out with in December last year. It has a great NPV of about $120 million Australian at $1,500 gold price. So that's a good 35% return for our shareholders. I think that this is a bit of a game changer for Plutonic. A lot of people thought that this was just an underground operation, that it didn't have any surface opportunities. And I think this project showed the investment community that in fact it does. We see ourselves adding 60,000 ounces of gold a year for 6 years. So that's a good project with a steady, strong mine life. And the underground will continue to operate. It will just simply be a high grade feeder for that operation. So taking a look at the surface, so this is an image of the pushback of that main pit. Black is the outline of the existing open pit, the blue and the pink and the green, the PEA projected mine plans. But I think the important part to note with this slide is the fact that there are opportunities well beyond that main pit project. Yes, it's a great project. It'll bring out 350,000 ounces of gold. But if you look across this property, the only reason we've mined here at the main pit and then over here at Plutonic East is that the mineralized mine mafic from which we mine outcrops there. So it's very easy to see the mineralization. But that mine mafic exists across the property, has very little drilling. Where it is drilled, 1 or 2 drill holes, we've got good grades. You can see here, I think that's 5.2 grams over a meter or 16 grams over 2 meters. This mineralization shows me that there are open pit opportunities at Plutonic beyond the main pit pushback. We're excited to get a surface drill rig operating in the next few months here. The next couple of slides really just highlight that second mill opportunity. Barrick, we're operating Plutonic in and around 330,000 ounces of gold a year. We see ourselves having the infrastructure already in place with which to operate at significantly higher levels than we do today. I am talking to in and around a dozen different parties along the Plutonic Marymia Gold Belt with respect to consolidation and the opportunity of whether it's a joint venture, farm in, or outright acquisitions of their properties so that we can operate that second mill. In the underground, this is the fourth pillar of our strategy I talked about. There's excessive opportunity here. When you take a look at a couple of these slides, I won't go into it in detail, but there's a lot of mineralization. We put our drill rig out here on the western mining front simply because it looks like this deposit wants to move west. These are high grade intercepts outside of our existing infrastructure. This is a cross section just showing you the extent of the mineralization. We've come out with 3 sets of drill results that have given us a lot of confidence that the only reason that this that we haven't mined out here is that we haven't drilled out here. And so it's pretty simple. You've got to do the drilling first, the development, and then get it into your mine plan. And so some of the results I just want to highlight. So here in the Baltic Western extension, we put in 7 holes in Q1 this year, or 7 holes hit significant mineralization, giving me the confidence that the geologists have the block model working and well, the geological model working, and that they understand the extension. 13.7 grams over 8.8 meters, certainly higher grades than we're currently mining, and shows you that there's mineralization that can quickly and easily be brought into our mine plan. Again, here, 350 meters up dip, 56 grams over 15 meters. This shows you Plutonic is not pinching out. It's not getting lower grade or to the end of its mine life. It simply needs to be drilled more. So excited to get this mineralization infill drilled this year into our mine plan in 2022. Baltic Gap, similarly, 40 grams over 6.5 meters, 21 grams over 8 meters. This is an exciting new mining front for us. It will be joining up our existing mine with our future production opportunities down here in the Baltic deeps, we call it, though it's only 750 meters below surface, so not really deep by anyone's judgment. But just showing you that we got a lot of exploration upside here. Some of the work we've been doing recently has been on our geological model. This shows you that the old way of doing things was not as accurate as doing things with modern technology, bringing in 3D modeling and forming our block models with more data, which needs to be done here. I'm really excited about what this could mean for us with respect to our mine planning and also with respect to our exploration targeting. Long history of exploration and success here with reserve and resource profile here. Year over year, you can see we've added reserves and resources to our profile here at Plutonic. And we do believe that that will happen moving forward. We've got a good array of upcoming catalysts. I talked about those exploration updates coming out on a regular basis. We'll be repaying that gold loan in full in June this year, showing additional $2 million a quarter of free cash flow to our bottom line. And then also there's the advancement of those open pit projects. That's a capital structure, very tight shares outstanding, 122 million. Good coverage from the analyst community here in Canada, and a long-term shareholder base of investors like Franklin and RBC who understand the gold market. But in closing, Mario, I would say that the most compelling thing about Superior Gold is that re-rate opportunity, the fact that we currently trade well below our peer average. So whether you're looking at it on a NAV multiple or a cash flow multiple, there's a lot of opportunity here for investors. And I think that now we are showing that we've turned the operation. We are delivering on our commitments, that people that you've got on the line should take another look at this story.
Okay, thank you. Just before we switch the slide, who would be your peers there? Who you compare to yourself to?
Yeah, it's a tough one, Mario, because there's usually the Canadian junior producers have operations in Canada. So I would say that Karora may be an example you would compare us to, simply because they're TSX listed, having operations in Western Australia. And then I'd also compare us to a name like Jaguar, which was previously, the same situation as Plutonic with respect to having an underinvestment in underground drilling and development, but which has turned and is turning around following simple investment in drilling and development.
Okay, thank you very much. Merci beaucoup. We're going to move on to the second presenter, Monsieur Thomas. Here we go. Mr. Phil Thomas from AIS Resource. Thank you, Phil.
Good, thanks, Mario. AIS Resources is listed on the TSXV, and we have 3 projects in Victoria, or 2 in Victoria and 1 in New South Wales in Australia, which we'll have a look at in a minute. And we've got a free equity carry in a lithium project in Argentina. So today I'm going to focus on just the Australian gold projects, since that's what we're talking about, but a lot of people are saying that lithium's as good as gold, but let's see how we go. Here's our disclaimer. Everything is in Canadian dollars as you see it on the screen, and we're in exploration at the moment, so there's a few forward-looking statements to consider. The first project we have is Fosterville, and it's in the Fosterville-Tuline area, which is only about 10 kilometres from the Fosterville mine. This is one of the richest mines in the world, with an average grade of 30 grams per tonne, over 2.6 million ounces as a measured and indicated resource. So you can see there's lots of tight folding. There's these white sediments, which are called the Ordovician sediments, and that's where through tension veining, where the gold has been transported from the mineralized systems that operate in the area. They're shales, so we don't have any hard granites or anything to belt through. So it's quite an interesting area that's been studied extensively. If we have a look at our other 2 projects, we have Yelgogran, which is 56 square kilometres, which has really 2 areas. One with 56 and one with 2.8. One with 2.8 square kilometres we're drilling at the moment. It's in a S-type granite, and it's basically been altered by a massive front of mineralised solutions running through the granite. It's been explored for the past 20 years, and we acquired it last year to ramp up the exploration and develop a much better model through diamond drilling. But there's been some outstanding results of 21 and 32 grams per tonne, very close to the surface. Of course, it's got some great closeology, with Lake Cowal mine being just up the road, and quite a few other, which we'll have a look at a little bit later. And then Kingston, which has been explored by Western Mining Corporation in the late 90s, and recently by Range Resources. once again in a gold belt with two major fault systems close by. So if we have a look at the map, here's the Fosterville map right here, and here is the tenement that we have, and we're drilling in this corner here. Block 3 is up for audit at the moment, and so what we've got here is a tender process being run by the Victorian government, and there's all sorts of 7-figure numbers being bandied around, but north of us is Catalyst Resources, Nubian Resources have the block above us. Outback is a little bit further down, which you're going to hear about today. And we're about between 10 and 12 kilometres, but in the same geological system, which I'll show you in a minute. Over at Kingston, we've got Stawell gold mines around us and Northern Stawell Exploration, Navarre Minerals between us, and we actually have 2 blocks here. We have one in the north and another block in the south. Most of this is Crown land, and there's mining actually going on right in the middle of the North Kingston area. In the Ararat area, there's also Crown land in here, so we don't have many issues with landowners. If we have a look at where Yalgogran is situated, it's sitting over here. The Lake Cowal gold mine that I was telling you is there. North Parks is up here. Evolution run that, and then we've got Cadia and so forth a little bit further over, about 100 kilometres to the east. If we go through Fosterville, this is the Boga gravity anomaly done at 30 kilometres, and this is the ground anomaly that we've done. And we were super excited when we saw the structure coming through here, and looking at this light yellow lines in the more coarser gravity gave us some pretty exciting structures to investigate. And you can see through Fosterville, they have the same sort of yellowy contour coming around, and we've got the same sort of thing, particularly in this area here. This is pretty interesting from our perspective, and we're drilling that out at the moment. We also did some deep ground penetrating radar, and they came up with some pretty interesting stuff. Excuse me. These lines here are called worm lines, and they're basically taken from the geophysics on the gravity survey. So you can see here we've got some grey lines coming across, and that's basically our major drill lines that we've put in. There's the main road coming through. This is all freehold, owned by a farmer who's very, very supportive of us and lets us have almost free access to his land, basically to do all the exploration we need. But you can see a red line I've put down there, and that's what we think is a major fault. So when these faults intersect or go close to these north-south trending faults, that's where the gold has come. And we've seen it numerous times, both underground and on surface at Fosterville. So when we saw these fault systems coming across here, we got pretty excited. And right along here, we've started to get sulfides coming through, and our next hole is going to be this one on here, right on the edge of that fault system coming there. And typically what happens in a turbidite is, which is the sort of rocks we've got, is you get a fault system running through the middle of it, or on the one or the other sides. And from that you get tension gashes occurring, and the mineralized systems come through and basically fill those up with gold. So this model was first put forward by Dr. Rodney Boucher. He's on our advisory board, and it's been developed ever since in the Bendigo area. So this is our current level of activity, and we've got about an 80-hole drill program running through here. This is just an overview so you can see we've got the Fosterville Goldfield is actually not there, it's over a little bit, and we're right beside it there. So the gold mostly forms in these vein systems in here, away from the actual fault, up to 2 or 3 kilometres away. Then we've got the Muckford Fault and the Whitelaw Fault. So we've got 2 fairly substantial systems right beside us, and we're offset away from where the main action is. So we're pretty excited about our location, as is Navarre. sitting between the Landsborough fault and the Coonji fault. Once again, a little bit more complex in systems, but fairly substantial gold systems have been found around this area. If we have a look at Yalgogran, which is in New South Wales, which is the state above Victoria, we can see here with this picture, the land's pretty flat. It's mostly grains that are grown, a little bit of sheep, and on our particular area, there's hardly anything grown at all. So we're lucky that the farmer, who we have a great relationship with, doesn't really have any use for the land. Once again, as I was saying before, we're in good company, plenty of gold activity going around us, and they call it the Golden Corridor. So it's quite an interesting area to be in. If we have a look at some of the hits we've had previously in the mining, a metre at 21, 9 metres at 2.2 with 1 metre at 13.3. And recently we drilled and got something in the vicinity of 87 metres, averaging about 1.3 grams per tonne. So we've hit the mark. Now we just have to prove it up. And if you have a look at that's the Asia Wylong mine. So you can see there's nothing really on the surface. It's our drill rig, but here you can see the sulfides coming, and this is a closer picture of the drill core with sulfides running through here. We've got carbonate replacement. We've got sericite in here, which is the alteration of the micas from all the fluids coming through. And these zones are quite extensive. So we're looking at possibly identifying a pretty large envelope. If I have a look at our drill program to date, we've got our first drill hole here. It intersected the massive sulfides about 180 metres from about 60 metres. And then we drilled hole 2 to see the extension of that. And we found that it basically doesn't plunge to the west, it plunges to the south. So while this hole was interesting from a geology point of view and proved that up, we didn't actually intercept anything in that particular area that was exciting. You can see all the surface mines around the area where we're working. They've got some really good hits on the surface. You can see this H-shaped structure that we have here of the IP, the chargeability is quite high. So the second hole we wanted to test under the Adelaide mine, and got some decent results, but probably not as good as we'd like. But at the moment, the core's being split, and it's been split and being assayed at the moment. So, but from our eyes, there's only certain intercepts of sulfides. So we think most of the action is in these big blobs here, another one down here, which we'll drill a little bit later. So hole 4 was drilled underneath that 32 grams per tonne, but we weren't quite aware of the plunge to the south, so we actually drilled underneath it. So now we understand what's going on with those 4 holes. And hole 5, 6 and 7, actually hole 5 is starting today. So we expect to get a decent result down here, and then we'll be able to see what's going on here and here with the southerly plunging. And this stuff it was open at depth at 200 metres. So not that we'd run an open cut to 200 metres in this area, but we're confident that there's significant amounts of gold moving backwards and forwards when it was being mineralised. If we go down into the other area, which is Asia Wylong, you can see the arsenic, which is a pathfinder for gold in the area. This is the old mine that we're going to drill under, and we'll put a hole straight under there in that direction to see if we can see where the reef system was, or whether it was just some more massive intrusion of fluids through the granites. You can see they're heavily oxidised and almost a saprolite stage. If we go and have a look at the Yalgogran thin section, you can see the gold sitting in here. So it's free gold in the sense that it's not bound up with the sulfides, and we're pretty happy with that from a metallurgy point of view. But these thin sections are really looking at a sample across various areas. So there are other areas with other sections with larger amounts of gold, lead, and zinc are the major, and iron are the major types of sulfides. So once again, fairly easy to treat from a processing point of view. If we have a look at the past history, we've had, we're sitting over here at the Neighbours prospect at the moment, drilling that out. The Adelaide mine just sits in here, and then we've got Walsh's up here, and then Holland prospect to the west. And this area has hardly been explored. So once we've put our 3 drill holes there, we'll look at that envelope there and then start exploring out into this envelope, because we've got that magnetic, the chargeability high sitting in here. If we have a look at the Walsh's, you can see the mineralised envelope there. You can see all the hits over 1 gram per tonne and 22 metres at 1.9 and so forth. 2.7 on the surface. So it's all relatively close to the surface, ideal for open cut. These weren't deep drill holes, they were 48 metres. So we've got some more work to do, because we know down at 60 to 120 metres, there's significant mineralisation. So if we have a look at Kingston, it's drill ready. Some fairly spectacular results from previous explorers. I went through the 2 areas that we have here. We've got some pretty interesting neighbours around us. Likewise, in the bottom resource, we've got some fairly good area in here to explore. Private land at the top there. So if we go through the Kingston Gold project, which is this is a prospecting license that sits in here inside the blue, and they started mining earlier this year, and we have everything outside of that, well, 167 square kilometres. But the mine that they've got is positioned to drive in this direction and towards the Whitty's old shaft. And what we're expecting is that if they go into our area, then we get a 15% royalty on the gold, which they take out. And we're very good friends with the guys that are working there, and we share a lot of information. The Kingston's got a big history. It's gone back to the 1900s and 1980s. Western Mining, which was a very large corporation at the time, came in. They went through the Kingston Landsborough Fault, which you may recall from the previous slide, looking at gold occurrences and magnetic transfer corridor. So on the basis of that work and the Range River gold work, which was quite substantial, Nevada did a little bit of work, came in with a couple of hits, 29 for 3 metres and 16.5.5, but we're pretty excited. These shafts are all over the place, and we'll be running some IP and some soil sampling to work it up. This particular rock chip sample graded about 2 grams per tonne from the surface, and it's all over the place, literally around the Kingston area. So if we have a look at the share structure, at the moment we've got 156 million shares out, and we've got quite an interesting lineup of options from 7.5 up to 20. So we suspect that as we increase our results and our share price moves up, some of those will get exercised to give us more cash to go forward. Management, Martin is our chairman based in Vancouver. I'm Pearson CEO, and up until the time we hired Dennis Walsh, who's ex Kirkland Lake Fosterville, I was involved with exploration. And then we have Dr. Rod Boucher on our advisory board, Stuart Govett, who's our geological advisor. He's worked in Lockington, which is to the north of Fosterville, Tulane, major deposit, and he's also worked at Kirkland Lake. So we have a fair bit of expertise from a geology point of view on the board or advising us, and Kiki Smith's our finance director, and Anthony Baum's based in London. There's our contact numbers. Happy to take some questions, and I see there's a few on the chat board there, so I shall
Thank you, Phil.
answer those
Thank you.
questions.
The questions that will come in the chat for you, but also Terry and Eric and myself will have some question. As we are just going to proceed with the change for the screen, just have a question on Yalgorin. You feel it's pocket, or you could see continuity with the?
Yeah. The IP, the chargeability and resistivity suggests that there's a number of mineralized envelopes plunging to the south. And originally, the evidence we had was, especially from the gradient array sitting at the back of the IP, we thought it was to the west.
Yeah.
So it's probably curved rather than having a particular plunge direction. My old lecturer, Alan White and Bruce Chappell extensively looked at these granites and the mineralized front, and they concluded that it was basically following some major fault systems that were through the area, but it was quite hot solutions, and you can see from the change in the granite and the replacement with manganese in some areas and the micas being replaced, that these solutions were massive, and some of the literature suggests areas up to 15 to 20 kilometres of width going north and south, which Cal was deposited. So we think the envelope could be quite substantial.
Okay, very good, Phil. Thank you very much. If you want to leave the screen sharing, and we'll get Mr. Donaldson to opt in. Thank you, Phil. Great presentation, merci. And I will leave the mic to Mr. Chris Donaldson.
Okay, can you guys see that okay?
Yeah, we see it. Thank you, Chris.
Okay, good morning, good afternoon, guys. Thanks, Mario and team for having us on here and putting this together. Outback Goldfields is a relatively new company. I came on in October as CEO. We acquired 4 properties in and around the Fosterville gold mine in the Victorian Goldfields. As you heard, the Victorian Goldfields, of course, are known for now they're known for Fosterville being the highest grade, the highest margin mine that is there. There's been 80 million ounces of gold produced there. Historically, most of that was between 1850 and 1920. And there's a real staking rush that's going on now because of the discovery at Fosterville. So
Can we just sound up a bit? Just to sound up a bit.
So is that a little better?
Yeah, please, Chris.
Sure. So our chairman, Craig Perry, acquired these properties from a company called Petrotherm, which is publicly listed in Australia. They had the foresight to start acquiring the land about 5 years ago. So we're a new company, but we enjoy a bit of first mover advantage on these properties. We trade on the Canadian Stock Exchange under the symbol OZ. We're also on Frankfurt and the OTC, and you see those symbols there below. So we have a disclaimer as well. If you're going to make an investment, hopefully you do, but please read this before you make any investment decision. So as mentioned, we have 4 properties. We're in what we would consider to be the best area code in the world right now for gold exploration. Our properties are in and around the Fosterville mine. We have a board team for a junior company that's very experienced in various facets of mining. And we're following a path of previous success, both from our experiences individually and also for companies that have been in the area and working and are having some good discoveries as well. So we're just getting going. We raised $11 million in December. We aimed to raise 6 and had a really good response. We raised 11. We started our drilling program in February, and just yesterday had our first batch of results come out, our first few holes. So we're in the game now, and we should have a really steady news flow going forward. We're anticipating putting about 6 million of that 11 into the ground this year. So a little bit about the board. Craig Perry, interesting story. He's an Australian, was working at Rio. He was the underbidder on Crocodile Gold back in 2015. Of course, that went to Newmarket, and then subsequently they were purchased by Fosterville. So he had a bit of not a grudge, but really wanted something to prove in the area. So he'd been eyeing properties, and when these came about, he jumped at it. He's had other success recently. He's chairman of Skeena Resources, Vizsla Gold, Next Gen, and ISO Energy. He's got a tremendous following. Part of the reason we were able to raise that money back in December. I've been at this for a long time. Most recently, I was with Western Copper and Gold for the last 8 years. They, of course, have a large copper gold porphyry up in Yukon, and I was very pleased to see on Monday that they finally closed a deal with Rio, which I initiated about 18 months ago, and they brought them in as a strategic investor. Oda Halley, our CFO, been with a number of companies, CFO of Yamana, Endeavor Mining, Pan American Silver. Louis Archambault, many of you may know, he was Corp Dev head for Gold Corp. He's now building a mine with Orezone in Africa. Eric Zonscherb, for those out east, well-recognized analyst for many, many years, most recently with Canaccord. He's now just serving on board. Happy to have him on board. And Penny Jaski. Penny was 15 years in community with Rio in Australia, and runs our ESG and our work on the ground there, which is very, very important. I'm not a geologist, so happy to have Eric and Craig, who are geologists on the team, and they're very active with our program as well. So one of the concerns, of course, with COVID is I'm based in Vancouver, and how do we get down to Australia? We were able to retain Peter Reed, who's the head of exploration for Petrotherm. He was the one who had the foresight to buy the properties. He's running our program down there. We've also added a guy named Matt Hernan, who is a farmer who lives on one of our tenements. So really good with the community down there and getting our land access. And of course, he knows the geology quite well. So he's built out a team. We have about a dozen people on the ground now working on a drill program. And then Chris Leslie is helping me on a day-to-day in Vancouver. He's got an interesting background in that he was actually living in Australia, got his PhD out of Coates in Tasmania, and a lot of history in the Victorian Goldfields, but had to come back to Vancouver for COVID reasons. So he's helping coordinate things. A little bit about our share structures. We have about 60 million shares outstanding, 75 fully diluted. Our share price, we've had a little bit of a run here. I think we're about 52 cents or so today, which gives us a market cap a little over $30 million. We're cashed up. Our last balance at the beginning of the year was about $10 million. Australia, we talked about it. It's obviously a tier 1 jurisdiction that's mining friendly. Victoria itself has a bit of a history of being a tough place to work. They've made some great strides in the last few years with their traditional owners, generally around just satisfying the royalty structure there. So they've got a pretty clear permitting system, albeit with all the staking rush and all the activity going there, it's a bit slow. But thankfully, we have an access to workers. I mean, like I said, our geologist lives on one of our tenements, and all the assay labs are all right there. So virtual year-round drilling. So once we, now that we've started getting results, we should have a steady stream for the balance of the year. A little bit of the story of Victoria. As I said, from 1850 to 1920, they produced over 60 million ounces. Most of that was alluvial gold that was at or near surface. They stopped when they hit cover. That cover is generally a basalt cover, or they hit a water table. And then there was a period of 100 years where it was, not a lot of success in the region. Of course, that all changed in 2016 or 2015 when Fosterville hit the Swan Zone. And as Phil mentioned before, this is what we're going for, right? I mean, that zone is 50 gram per ton. They're the highest margin, highest grade mine operating in the world, I believe. And this is what we're going for. That's the good news. The knock on the area is, is there another one? Because there hasn't been a discovery like that again. And hopefully we find that out here in the next year or two. We saw Mandalay Resources a few weeks ago put out a news release. They hit a zone under their Costerfield mine where they hit about 1.5 meters at 450 gram per ton, 6 meters at 23 gram per ton. So there's quite a bit of excitement in and around that okay, maybe there are more of these types of deposits. That's good news for both AIS and our Silver Spoon properties, which is one of our 4 properties, as we're just north of that Costerfield mine, which is and we're both of us are basically in a line between Costerfield and Fosterville. which is about 20 kilometers between them. So we have 4 properties here, and you see them in orange. I'm going to start on the bottom left there, where Glenfine. That is subject to our initial drill results, and Glenfine was drill ready. Has had the most work historically on it. We've got about a 4,000 meter drill program planned on that. Ballarat West is just north. It's next to the old Ballarat mine. If you see the 3 mines within, say, 5 kilometers of the property have produced over 17.5 million ounces of gold. It's indicative of what's happened in the area, that despite the fact that there's been that much gold in and around the property, it's virtually unexplored, and that's the opportunity. And the reason for that is it's subject to a shallow cover. So we're quite excited to get onto that. We just got our exploration license approved on that this week. So that'll be something that we'll start working on here starting in the summer. Our second property up north is Ewengroon. We've completed some mag surveys, some geophysics on it, and a LiDAR survey as well, and are moving a RAB drill up there in the next couple of weeks. And our fourth property is Silver Spoon, which you can see the blue area here is Kirkland Lake and Fosterville. So we touched them just to the south. Newmont liked the area and bought these tenements up to the north and east of us a couple of years ago. The Costerfield mine that I talked about is just south of us as well, and of course here's Fosterville. So we're certainly in the right jurisdiction. Phil gave a good description of the geology of the area and what we're excited about as well. Actually, before I go on there, so what's interesting is, the good news, of course, is Fosterville has that big deposit. The challenge for them is that they're chewing through it, or they're mining it at a pretty good rate. So they have committed to $90 million of exploration this year on their properties. And if you add up all of the programs that have been planned for this year between all of the companies in the area, us included, it's over $200 million worth of exploration. So over the next couple of years, we should see a steady stream of results coming. It's nice to see Mandalay with those results. Certainly, we hope we're the next ones with a major find, but I'd be not equally as happy, but quite happy if AIS or one of our peers in the region find something, because that'll prove out the theory that there are multiple Fosterville style deposits. So a little bit more on a Glenfine project. It's a 20-kilometer trend of prospective and underexplored geology. Our program is centered on 2 different areas here: Glenfine South by the Glenfine South mine and British Banner. If we drill into that, you see the Glenfine South mine, historic mine that had produced over 40,000 ounces at 16 grams per ton. So we're drilling in and around that, and a few hundred meters off, there's an area called Reef 2, which had some intercepts that you see on the right and some mineralization. We're testing in between to see if there's some continuity between the two. I'll get into that in a sec. So we're just about finished our 2,000 meters at Glenfine, and then we'll be moving up to British Banner for an additional 2,000 meters in the next couple of weeks. And we'll be drilling along the basal dome there and the contact, and also doing some step out drilling. So the results that we had yesterday, and we've got a bit of a bump and some volume coming on that. As mentioned, we've got the Glenfine South mine, or what they're calling the Glenfine Reef. And then you've got Reef 2, which had some pretty good historic intercepts as well. So the first couple holes that came out, you see the highlights on the left here. We had a meter at 10 grams, 17 meters at 2.6. We came across some visible gold in the core, 0.3 at 15 grams as well. So we were checking both the up and down dip extension of the Reef 2, and we hit the mark. So we know we're in the area. We achieved the goal of making sure that some of the past drilling was, we were on the right target. The subsequent, so that was first 3 holes. The next 8 will be in between the Reef and Glenfine Reef, and also some step out drilling, and hopefully we get the next batch within the next month or so. Ewan Group property, again, you can divide this into two target areas here. So the west side, we've got a 30-kilometer focus for us all along the Golden Jacket Fault. We've already done the MAG survey as mentioned, and the LiDAR survey was just completed as well. That gives us an idea of the historical workings on the area. Our RAB drill has been secured and is going to start up there in a couple of weeks. And the idea there is we'll do about 400 holes in and around the Golden Jacket mine or historical workings. And that's an area that had 1,400 ounces produced, and not a lot, but it was at ultra high grade at 250 grams per ton. So the goal of that is to get some, do some target identification, get some good targets for us to follow up with some diamond drilling. On the Wedderburn area, we have some targets already set. There's 6 high tenor arsenic anomalies that are identified, and we're anxious to get on and drill those. We're just working on land access, which we hope to have in a couple of months. And then Ballarat West, I talked about it's virtually unexplored. You see the Ballarat mine and all the historical workings in and around. Again, it's right off the Avoca Fault, which separates the Bendigo and Stall zones. You know, if we were to extend the map down a bit, you see there's these north-south structures that come right up to the property and then just appear to stop, you know, and it's not that we have some magic line at the south of the property there. It's that they dip undercover and they stop drilling. So we've identified a couple of targets there. We're quite excited to get in and start doing some work, and this will be probably our focus on the back half of this year. And then Silver Spoon I talked about, and you know, and NAS talked about that as well here. So you know, you see this land auction block, which was mentioned. The nice thing about that is, you know, it's the numbers being tossed around are large. What it will require to get into that, to acquire it, I'll be surprised if Newmont's not part of it. But in any event, it's likely a mid-tier or major that comes about. That'll also set a bit of a value for land in the area. So we've done a lot in our 6 months here. We acquired the properties, we raised our money, we've started our drill program, we established a team. We've got 3 of our 4 licenses, and we'll basically work our phase 1 program till July, see what happens on the first 2, and then rank and prioritize what we're going to do for the back half, which we'll call phase 2. So we've got $3 million in the ground in phase 1. We'll probably put another 3 into the ground on phase 2. A little bit about the opportunity here, and what you see on the left is just a market cap of a number of our companies. Of course, these are pretty fluid in these days. They go up and down. We're a little over 30 million market cap, a basket of companies in the area. Those have been established a little longer are quite a bit higher. I think with some news and now some results coming, we're going to creep up and move into that area. I've got a case study there for Fosterville South, which was, you know, got a lot of attention last year at this time, and you know, they IPO'd, had some decent results off the bat. Similar land package to what we have. Of course, gold price tailwind always helps, and we're seeing that now. They hit $2,000 gold and marketed well on the back of that and got up to a 300 million market cap. They've come down since then, but they've got quite a bit of money in the bank. They were able to refinance. They've spun out some projects and are still well above 100 million market cap, which is still several times ahead of where we are right now. And that's junior mining. That's a leverage we can hand there. Of course, junior mining is higher risk, but you know, this is some of the leverage you can see if things align and you hit some good results. So for us, you know, if you're looking to invest in junior mining, I think we're in about as good an area you can be in. It's certainly getting a lot of attention. Majors are moving in. It's an area that has produced in the past, and the geologists believe there's an additional 80 million yet to be discovered. We're surrounded by majors and activity that's going in there. People haven't explored with modern techniques for very long, only in the last 5-6 years. So a lot of the understanding of the area is new. And again, you know, most our results are ahead of us here. So we should have a steady stream for the balance of the year.
Thank you, Chris.
Sure.
Chris, before we go to Terry, do you see any investment from Kirkland Lake into other juniors in Australia?
To be honest with you, I don't know if they've done that. I don't know. I'm speculating, but I think their focus. I mean, they've indicated that they want to put $90 million, and that was public, into exploration this year. I think part of that was probably earmarked for the auction land that's adjacent to them. But we'll have to remain to, that remains to be seen. Maybe Phil knows if they put into another company, but I haven't seen that yet.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Thank you all. We're going to go to Terry to start. Terry?
Yeah, sorry about this TSO on my screen. It's Terry Orson. How are you? Thanks for three great presentations. And I don't really give too much credence to charts, but when I look at the charts of each of you, there's a story that I wanna hear from each of you. There's a question to all of you, as a matter of fact. Tamara, your stock has gone from low to high, like triple, almost like. And Neil, about fivefold. And Chris, yours gone almost to $5 from $1 and then came down. Could you briefly tell our audience what made the stocks move in the meantime and how realistic the moves have been? Is it market related, internal issues? And how would you interpret the charts versus the actuality? Thanks. Tamara first.
Thanks, Terry. Hey, it's nice to see a chart like that after we've all been through the gold price drop that we've seen since July last year. So thanks for the question. I think that the answer is pretty simple. It always comes back to fundamentals, Terry, and that's what we're focused on here now at Superior. We had a management change mid-year last year. As everyone knows, it takes some time to turn a big ship like an operating operation. And so this year we're starting to see the results of that. So I would say it's number one, delivering on what we tell the market we're going to do. So actually telling them and delivering it. And then also, obviously, I would say when you've got operations that have an increase in production profile, a reducing cost profile, that has certainly helped. And the market's starting to take a look at this story where for a number of years, I would say we were in the doghouse.
Neil?
Phil?
So for me, about Outback?
Chris, yeah, go ahead.
All right, so Outback here. Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty simple story for us. So I mean, we raised our money in December. Gold was $19.50. We were essentially a shell with not a lot of shares out. So our initial kind of pop to $1.50 gave us 150 market cap, and we hadn't done anything yet. So, I mean, we had a natural drift down to our financing price, and you see that came off in March. We issued 33 million shares to acquire the properties. That came off in April. So we came down to that. Gold fell from 1950 to sub 1700. And now it's creeping its way back, and we're starting to have news. So we're starting to move in the right direction. There's been some kind of accumulation here around 45, 50, and I think we're in good shape here going forward.
Neil?
Phil, sorry.
Phil, sorry. Phil, your stock has gone from pennies to almost 10 cents and came back again. Any reason why the stock has performed that direction and market cap is still quite low? Phil?
I think Phil is not there anymore. I don't see him on the participants list.
I know, Terry, that the AIS resource that came out with they drill 87 meter of 1.5 gram. And this is where we have the spike.
Hey, Martin, Martin wants to talk.
Yeah, go ahead, Martin, talk.
Yeah, Philip, it is just after 3 a.m. in the morning for Philip, so maybe he's thinking he's gone. He's possibly gone, unfortunately. Martin Element here, just summing up, chairman of AIS. I've said to Philip after he'd done his speech, I said, the single biggest thing that we've, I think, got is the management on the ground. Very, very, very extensive, very experienced. Philip himself, of course, is tremendous experience, but Dennis Walsh that we hired at Christmas time, we hired him from Kirkland Lake. He was a senior mining exploration geologist for Kirkland Lake. And I can tell you, other than it being 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, he would have been on this call, but he's out in the field working on 2 different projects, Yalgorim and on Tulin. And he is so excited about Tulin, you have no idea. And the reason he's so excited is because he's seeing exactly the same rocks, exactly the same formations with the hanging wall, the sulfides and the quartz, which of course is the exact cocktail that they had previously, just before they made the major discovery at Fosterville. And he said to me on Sunday night, I haven't talked to him that much, but he said, Martin, my son and I like to go fishing. Think of it like fishing, and we're in the river. And he said, and when we go find a good river with fish, we like to walk up the river to try and find the source of the river. Because if we find the source, that's where we're really going to find the fish. And he says, make no doubt about it. We are now very much in that river. And it's going to be very inexpensive to do those other 80 holes. We've already done 10 or 12, I think. But the other holes that we're going to be drilling, these holes are very, very inexpensive. They're very, very quick. And they're alluvial. They're as short as 10 meters to sort of a maximum of 30 meters. And we've just put the first 10 assays in on the 10 holes that we've done over the last few weeks. But he is so excited, and he's a very, very low key kind of guy. So it's just so, I guess, I know that Chris would be excited as well, but I think that we have every possibility to capture a major discovery, and it's not that far away. Dennis thought it could be, a month, could be 6 weeks, but it's not 6 months or 2 or 3 months. We are very, very close, I think, to having potentially a major discovery, which will set that whole area on fire. I got in touch with the CEO of South Fosterville just yesterday, Chris, because as you know, that hasn't been a good journey for them. They have a massive amount of land, but they're finding that a lot of it's on government, a lot of it's on indigenous, and they haven't really had the success. But, we have 3 separate properties. We have the management. I'm going on too much, but I thank you for allowing me to speak, Mario.
Thank you.
Thanks, Martin.
There go ahead.
Thanks, Martin, for that. Thanks for the summary. I hope he's got his pen with him so he can pen his way up the river and down the river. It would be great.
Well, he just said, think of it like a river, that's what he said. And he's excited. So the next Zoom, we'll get Dennis on. It's just the timing is tough for us with my management all in Oz, but you'll see, and Chris should perhaps have a chat, and you'll see the enthusiasm of, you can't buy that. He's just like a child with seeing the candy in the candy shop, and he's off. He's just, anyway, enough. I'm overselling, guys. I'm sorry. I apologize.
Okay. That's all right. We got the message. Second question to all of you. I think, Martha, you did your share. Second question is, Tamara, and to Chris. Tamara, in your case is different. Your capital spending and your exploration spending going forward, and Chris, in your case, what's your budget?
Terry, so at Plutonic, we've had a situation where the operation has had less invested in drilling and development than it should have. So I would expect that going forward, you'll see us increasing the amount that we're putting back in the ground. And I think that's a positive thing. And it's because we're going to be opening new mining fronts, which will, extend the life of that underground and develop those open pits. But generally, to give the viewers an idea, $3.5 to $6.5 million is our current budget for exploration. It's a wide range because it's based on success. We have a drill rig completely dedicated to exploration in the underground, and we're getting a surface drill rig mid-year. So I would love it if, with the strength of the gold price holding here, us paying off our gold loan and us putting more money on our balance sheet, we'll have the ability to probably double up on our drill rigs over the coming 6 months.
And the capital spending that goes with that in terms of needs, because you're operating as it is.
Yeah, absolutely. So, our all-in sustaining cost figure you can see it's elevated, and that's as a result of needing to get ahead on our development. So we're doing extra development, obviously, development that we're eating through each month, but also in order to get stope inventory ahead of us. So as we get back to a normal place where I'd like to see around 6 months of inventory ahead of us, Terry, I think that you'll then be able to see that all-in sustaining cost figure start to drop down.
Chris, I will come back. Chris, I will come back to you. But Tamara, just to finish up with my case, so you think the game changer for the Superior Oil going to be the exploration spending, the getting out of the mine in terms of development, and 3, you said the area possibilities of synergies, either equity based, asset based, or operating based. Am I right?
Absolutely. So you've got a catalyst in each of those areas. So in the underground, opening those new areas, 56 grams over 15 meters, getting that material extended. And on the open pits, just putting a drill rig up there and drilling some of those near surface targets that haven't been drilled since the Barrick days. And then the third drill rig, coming to a business arrangement with any one of the neighboring properties. For example, there's 1 million ounces right on our border that has no milling capacity. And so we've got a lot of opportunity to get that second mill back in production. And
your target is to do all this in the next 6 months to a year?
Over the next 12 months, you'll see significant progress on all 3 of those, yes.
Yeah. For my case, thanks, Tamara.
Thanks, Terry.
Chris, on your case, with respect to spending budget that you have and also game changers?
Yeah, I mean, just very simply, we raised 11 in December. Our initial drill program, which will go to the summer, is $3 million. Our plan is to put another $3 million into the ground. For the back half of the year, of course, that can be scaled depending on results and the market conditions and so on, but that would still leave us with a couple million left at the end of the year. So we're fully funded for this year. In terms of catalysts, we're hoping to find some gold here along the way. That's the main goal, and results are just coming. So we have 2 drills are turning now. We had our first 3 results. They came out yesterday. The next 8 will come out, the next 8 will be out within a month. A third drill is starting up in a couple of weeks. So plenty of news flow for the balance of the year.
But just before I give the mic to Eric, can you just explain to me your Australian shareholding versus Canadian shareholding in each case, please? Tamara, Chris, and Martin. Thanks.
Tamara.
So Terry, for Superior Gold, we have very few to no Australian shareholders. We're predominantly held in North America with some European holdings. So I do believe that's an arbitrage opportunity there, because some of our Australian owned ASX listed peers are trading at multiples far in excess of us, and they simply have ground with exploration potential on it, no operations, no ability to process that material. So we have the keys to all the infrastructure in our region, and believe that that's going to be a catalyst to start to get Australian investors into this story for the first time.
Thank you. Chris?
Yeah, for us, so we issued shares for the transaction to an Australian company called Petrother, and they distributed what they call in specie to their shareholders. So each of their shareholders got a fraction of or a share of Outback for whatever their fraction was of the shares they owned of Petrotherm. So in whole for Outback, we're about 50% Australian, 50% North American, with a little bit in Europe.
Martin, are you still there? I don't think it's there. Okay, Eric.
There you go.
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for all 3 of you for the great presentations. I do remark that effectively it must be 3 o'clock in the morning in Australia or something like that. So kudos for that discrepancy in the timetable or the time scheduling. I guess my initial questions or feelings was, Australia is a great jurisdiction. I'm not that familiar with the geology, et cetera, but I did put up a slide. I don't know if you can put it up, but it was just to compare the 3 main, or should say the big mining camps in the world. And Australia has, I could say, a few of them. There's the Yilgarn, obviously, and something that the 2 of the companies that are active now is the Victoria Goldfields. But I was just putting on, I saw that presentation. I think I got it from If I'm not mistaken, it might have been IIS website, but it's just to put things into perspective in terms of the footprint. And you see Carlin on the upper right corner below the Witwatersrand, and then you've got the Yilgarn and the Victoria Goldfields. And it's just to show that, yeah, effectively Australia is very well endowed with major gold camps. And this leads me, I guess, to Tamara with Plutonic. I think, if I'm not mistaken, you're to the north of the Yilgarn camp there. I guess my fundamental question was your brownfields. Do you have to move stuff in terms of like the camp, either the tailings or the mill, in terms of eventually, if you're seeing that open pit potential, will that be a problem eventually, or is it something that because you've got a lot of space, you can effectively move stuff quite easily?
Yeah, look, Eric, I'm not the geo, but I get excited about having that problem. And it's because everywhere people talk about Plutonic as though, it's legendary in Western Australia because it's such a big operation. So many people have worked there. And I hear people say very regularly, everywhere you put a drill hole, there's gold at Plutonic. And so, obviously it was a different gold price environment back when she was built. But I wish there had been a little more condemnation drilling, because all of my targets are sitting under a tailing storage facility. That mill is obstructing that main pit pushback from getting bigger. There's another 50,000 ounces that could come in. So we're doing trade-off studies on the relocation of the mill. So absolutely, pretty well everything that you've described as far as infrastructure is sitting on gold. And we as a board have always speculated, should this have been a super pit? And so for us now, it just behooves us, for our shareholders, to continue to operate, continue to add free cash flow, but at the same time, start to do that drilling and exploration work so that we can see what should this be before we make conclusions on the next project.
Okay, so it's an opportunity because, like you say, they didn't do necessarily the condemnation drilling, and so you can verify that. Just a few questions very quickly. What's the workforce size right now at Plutonic, approximately?
Yeah, around 350, 400 people. So we're owner miners, and it's a fly-in, fly-out operation, sort of let's say a 2 and 2 style shift, depending on where people are working. I would say there's more people than your average, than a similarly sized operation. And it's because it's complex geologically. So we have more geologists, but I'm excited, as I said in my presentation, about bringing, 2020 first technology to Plutonic, where we're informing those block models using 3D modeling, incorporating 30 years of drilling and face sampling, so that now all of a sudden it's like we've turned a light on in the deposit, where our old block model said there were 2 stopes, and now we're using the 3D modeling, it's showing, hang on a sec, there's literally 4 stopes around each of those stopes. And that's just because more data is informing the interpretation. So yeah, look, there's a lot of upside here.
Okay, and then just remind me, because I don't think you mentioned it, but what's the total size of the land package, the acreage you actually own?
So Plutonic is actually 644 square kilometres. And in addition to that, we have the Hermes and Hermes South projects to the south. So it's a big land package. And, people ask a lot about how do you compare investments with respect to, looking at other opportunities outside of your land and what we've got. And so there's, I guess, a healthy capital competition going on here, because there's a lot of prospective land that we own and also that our neighbours hold as well.
Okay, so you've got that brownfield opportunity, but also that greenfield inside the land package you have, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, and then I guess another question I had is, in terms of the capex for that second mill, we're talking about how much approximately?
Around 15 to 20 Australian million dollars.
Okay, so it's not totally crazy.
No, certainly not. And you'd get a big step up. So some of the projects I'm looking at for that, Eric, are we've got 30 years of tailings sitting there at 0.7 grams, looking at a flotation circuit on that second mill and whether we can reprocess those tailings. Because if I have to move them anyway, because there's a gold deposit below them, we may as well get some money as we're moving it. So look, that one there is that step up from the 100,000 ounces, which we know we can hit, up to that 150 level. That'll be that leverage piece, is that second mill.
Okay, and Tamara, we did exchange in the chat about the depth of the deposit, and it's still open. And
Yeah.
effectively, I mean, in perspectives of like in the Canadian Shield in the St-Pierre province, we're talking about depths of 2,500 meters. So it's relatively still shallow. So you still got all that deep down depth potential that there is no reason not for potentially having gold very good.
That's exactly right, Eric. That's the exciting part, is it's a very flat-lying ore body. So, you know, the lowest operations now at about 750 meters. But if you take a look at the geology and the source of the fluids that came in, you know, they created one of our areas is called the Timor. It produced 1 million ounces at an average of 8 grams per barrack. And so it didn't end. It's just that it's been folded or turned. And so we're looking very, you know, very aggressively for where that Timor extended or turned to. And so, you know, we're going to be able to, the very probability is that it's between 0 and 500 meters below surface.
Maybe just a last, yeah, sorry, Mario, maybe just a last question that will probably lead off to Chris and the other from IIS is your drilling costs. I know somebody answered, Neil McRae answered for, I think, Outback, but my thinking here is that, you know, you've got the underground, because you've got an underground drill, and you're talking about acquiring a surface one, but what's in terms of the range, your drilling costs?
Yeah, look, it depends on the productivity and where it's located, etc. Very good ground conditions, but around $150 a meter, 120, 150.
Okay.
Just a question for Tamara. Tamara, I want to know, at 76 cents, how much am I paying an ounce in the ground?
At 76 cents, how much you're paying for an ounce in the ground? Well, we've got it depends on which ounces you want to look at, Mario, but we've got 5 million ounces of MI&I.
Okay. I'll make the calculation. Okay, good.
Yeah, it's about, I'll do it here for you. Haven't done it in a while. I'll come back to you. Yeah.
And on the chart, next we met la chart supérieur, s'il vous plaît. What's interesting and to watch is that we might see what we call a golden cross. So this is very bullish. So we might go and revisit, you know, like over 82 cents. So hopefully this could be a very big buy signal on the stock. So stay tuned.
Thanks, Mary. I'm glad someone knows about charting. It's not me.
I just might lead off to Chris, and just in terms of the drilling costs is, I mean, one thing I do note is that, you know, it's not that expensive. You don't have the winter conditions like we have over here, the snow and the ice, and trying to warm up your water lines. But the other thing is, I think Chris mentioned it, is that you can virtually, you know, drill all through the year, which is not always the case in other jurisdictions. So Chris, I guess my question to you is, when can you not drill? Is it just because something with migrations of birds, or is it when it's too wet, or just maybe give us some insight in that?
Yeah, at the extreme, sometimes it gets too hot. There's a bit of a real fire concern. That's the big one in the summer there. So you can mitigate that by, you know, we're generally in farmers' fields, which is often canola fields and so forth. So I mean, you can mitigate it by cutting the crops and then having extra water there, but water can be an issue as well. So sometimes it's just, you know, best to wait through that period, but that might be a month. And then on the other end, in the Victoria region, or in and around Ballarat, they do get quite a bit of rain in the winter. So sometimes the fields get a bit mushy, and it's hard to get the pad set and the rigs in and out and so forth. So can be mitigated. Again, you can build up some gravel roads getting in. Sometimes farmers don't want a new road right through the middle of their crops. But generally, it's pretty good. Yeah.
Maybe I know you're not a geologist, and Phil is not there anymore. But one thing I took out of the presentation for the Victoria Goldfields is that, you know, you have these main faults, but gold seems to be associated with these splays. I call them sometimes these horsetails, which is these little splays that are quite well endowed. So I'm just wondering, I mean, obviously, as any, you know, gold province, the geological models evolve and there's changes, but I do take note that, you know, these are historical gold fields, but as Fosterville has shown, I mean, there's still more to discover. And a bit like we were discussing with Tamara, I mean, it's, you know, some areas have been not drilled very deep. So I was just wondering, in terms of the Ballarat and the Victoria Goldfields, what is the deepest that's been drilled or worked in terms of these deposits?
I don't have an exact number for you, but I mean, Fosterville is down about 800 meters or more on that, and I think Costerfield, who's chasing mineralization, their last, I think it's around 600 or 800 meters down as well. Of course, they're hitting mineralization, you know, closer to surface, but then it seems to get thicker as they go down. So, I mean, we're starting to at quite close to surface. I mean, our average drill hole is 250 meters so far. But yeah, you're right. I mean, the major fault in our region is the Avoca fault, which separates the Bendigo and Stall zone, and it's off these splays. For instance, I was talking about that Golden Jacket fault that we were gonna, we're exploring and so forth. So it's off those splays, as you say, that is really the focus for what we're looking for.
Okay, and then I'm getting back to your 4 properties. I mean, it's relatively subsurface and it hasn't been in the scope of things not that much explored. So there's great opportunities in that regards to find these other smaller splays and perhaps being very well endowed. Yeah,
and I mean that's the whole opportunity in the area, right? So it's an area that previously people thought was mined out, and just because they hit surface, but and there was that 80 million that was discovered, right? So there has to be a fluid source from that. They're finding it now deeper and below this shallow cover. So it's a big chase to try to find these fluid sources that are coming off the splays.
Okay, and then maybe just on another level, we know there's been a change in the U.S. and there's a lot of talk about the taxation rate is going to increase, and so that will change the perception of different jurisdictions. But my question in terms of getting into the politics of Australia, how are things looking in terms of being amenable to the mining industry and not being too greedy, and in terms of permitting and et cetera? What do you think is coming up in terms of the head of the curve?
Yeah, I mean, they did raise their royalty rates last year, which didn't excite a lot of people, but it depends what your comparison is. Is it like a Chile or some of these in Peru and Argentina where they're threatening to take over companies, right? I mean that threat I think is extremely low. And the nice thing about the area is it's nice to have $2,000 gold, but Fosterville could operate at much lower than that just because of the margins they already enjoy. So I mean, we obviously want higher gold because that brings people into the space, but in terms of operating, it's as good as any jurisdiction in the world in terms of being able to get profitability.
All right, well, thank you, gentlemen and lady. It was very interesting for me to hear this 3 great presentations, and I'll leave it at that for now. And so everybody, for now, I'm just going to say I'm going to have to spin off.
Okay, thank you, merci Eric. Thank you, Terry. It's 1:25. Tamara, I read somewhere that maybe a few years ago, Australian Canadian stock were outperforming the Canadian one. On the last note, would you like to comment on this?
Yeah, look, it's something we all watch because everyone asks, should we list on the TSX, on the ASX? And I think it depends on what's going on in the other environments. So Canada faced a number of headwinds when we saw blockchain and the pop market come into the TSX. And so that speculative dollar certainly was dragged out of junior exploration, Mario. And so the Australians benefited. For me, when I look at it, I have a direct correlation to the Aussie dollar declining and so those Australian producers re-rating. And I think you've seen it come off as that Australian dollar's come up and peaked. I think that you're now seeing the turn back to the TSX listed entities.
Okay, thank you very much. So as a final word, I would like to say, Tamara, thank you very much. Superior Gold, SGI on the TSX Venture. If you would like more information, you can contact Kate Stark. It's with us on the call. Thank you, Kate, for your presence. The AIS team, Phil Thomas, probably not sure if he went back to sleep or whatever. And Martin Elemin, thank you very much. Their coordinator is right on the call. Chris Donaldson, thank you very much for the great presentation. Merci beaucoup. If you need some information, Neil McRae, the info is right there. I want to thank our sponsors. In closing, WC from the CIM and Amos, Robert, merci beaucoup. Thank you. Red Cloud, Investor Intel, BTV, MRAG, thank you very much. Eric, Terry, thank you. Always great question. And to the team of MI3 and everybody on the call, merci beaucoup. Have a great day. And don't forget to watch the Habs tonight against the Leaf. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Take care.
Thank you.